Welcome to today's session, where we're diving into the world of Department, a company redefining how we interact with products, people, and culture through technology. I'm joined by two visionaries behind the brand, Gareth, founder and CEO, and Kadeem, co-founder and chief product and tech officer. Guys, thanks for being here. Let's get into it.
What's up?
Cool.
Let's go.
Cool, so let's rewind for a minute. Gareth, where did the spark for Department come from?
I think it's just the spark from life, to be honest with you, Ultimately, my whole life, I've been a creative, a technologist, and, my professional career has been in creative industry, working at agencies. And you see how brands adopt technology. You see how they try to be creative in their fields to ultimately, send a message or tell a story. And I thought the system was broken for that, or it's been diluted by stories that are just not really meaningful. Buy this, do that. So I think, my own personal experiences probably sparked the fire for Department.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask you, what was the moment of frustration that led you to building this?
I think just my personal frustrations with how I interact with brands, how a brand interacts with me once I've purchased something. They just, get the same boring emails, the same boring content. And I think over time you feel like you're just being sold to and you're not really having any kind of relationship with someone you're engaging with and spending money with. And I think that world's changed. You look at brands today, they do more than just sell products, They build communities, they build a vision, they build products, they build tech, It's really multifaceted. You see a clothing company end up running events, and that's because they're more than just a clothing company and they've got a story that they want to share. So
sick. Kadeem, where did you come into the picture, and what made you say yes to building this together?
Yeah, I remember me and Gareth, we met at some weird vinyl vibe kind of party.
This was our party, weird party.
Yeah, we kind of met there, and then kind of just, we had a mutual kind of respect and understanding about the culture and music, fashion, that kind of stuff. All the people that were there were on a similar kind of mindset. And I think after that, you told me a little bit about Department. I didn't really understand what you guys were doing, but it sounded very interesting, right? And it was the blockchain side for me that I was something that I was interested in outside of the kind of financial part of it, and kind of looking at, okay, how can we implement this into real life? And how can we use this every day? So I just started as a consultant, as per se. And I loved it. I was just learning, learning from different people, doing research, understanding the vision. And I just was there basically
on the journey.
So.
It's funny, he says he doesn't really know what was going on. Neither did we at the beginning, to be fair. To be fair, there was a lot going on. There was a lot going
on. Was there a single moment where you realized this is more than just a project and this could change things?
Yeah, I remember actually quite vividly, we just ended a call and we were talking about, basically we have the first product was Genesis Collection, which is these glasses that we were designing that were going to be a one-of-one tied to the blockchain, physical, digital product. And after the call with the rest of the team, me and Gareth jumped on a call and we were talking about, if we could take this and basically give this technology to brands. And we started talking about music. Imagine if you could do this as an artist. Imagine if you could do this as a brand. Imagine if you could do this in a club, in a rave. And then that's when I was this is not just a project. This could be actually a business. And we just kind of have this these offshoot conversations where we just talk for hours about the potential, with no solution, by the way.
No real plan. I think
plan.
We just connected over there was this common interest in what the tech could do beyond the product. And I think when we started out, ultimately it was just a product, and that's as far as we thought, is how can we make a physical product that's backed on the blockchain. At the time, it was 2021. Everyone was using this thing called blockchain and selling JPEGs for millions of dollars.
And I did not understand.
With zero utility or value. I understood it a little bit more than him, but frankly, I was still what the fuck is going on over here? And we'd been exposed myself to blockchain since like, early 2013, early kind of Bitcoin exposure, and just watching the whole, evolution of how it was being used beyond finance and more for like consumer or creative industries it didn't feel like the best use case of the technology. And I think at the time I was thinking about my skill set in marketing and creative industries and how I could apply this to that. And I think you're working in live events and music. You were thinking about that. And I think through the whole process of creating this product, we started to look at how we could embed NFC technology as the interface to blockchain. And that's where it really started to offshoot the conversations from the main discussions that we were having in the early team, where we started to think about, okay, we're making this technology for ourselves as a consumer product, but how would it look if we offered this technology to brands for their consumers? And I think what we started to see within our own product for, what we wanted to develop it for, we started to think, okay, brands would be interested in this stuff. If we want to create deeper experiences with consumers and offer more value through the things that they buy, and we can enable that, why wouldn't someone else want that? So that's where it really began.
Yeah,
Love
I
it.
agree with that stuff.
So far, what's the most chaotic, unhinged, or hilarious early startup moment
Where do we start?
that made you guys think,
There's
what
quite a
are we
few
doing?
stories.
I mean, look, when we started 2021, we went to Breakpoint in Lisbon. I think it was November 2021. And we went there with high hopes, big ambitions. We've got this physical product backed on the blockchain. Everyone's going there to talk about their JPEG pictures, mostly monkeys and other, animal creatures. And we stood out like a sore thumb. And I think we got an interesting reception there, that we had this physical product and that we were thinking about backing physical products on the blockchain. The fact that we walked around the conference, or I walked around the conference wearing like 7 different types of glasses throughout the whole week, was also pretty cool. Shout out peacocking from Neil Strauss. Good strategy. But I think, we left there on a high. And when we landed back in the UK, the whole FTX fiasco happened. And the whole word blockchain and NFT became this dirty word, because everyone felt the effects of it, because, they lost money whether they were on chain or whether they weren't on that exchange. They were feeling the effects of the market downturn. And I think that ultimately instilled a lack of confidence in everyone, whether it be our own team or people externally. And I think we saw beyond the initial cycle.
Yeah.
And we thought, what's the bigger picture here, And I think my experiences growing up with the whole .com boom and, if you will, Web 2, watching the rise and fall of different websites, different applications, I knew that it would come back around, and I thought that we could potentially be the next wave of it. So I think having like something as big as that when you've just started a startup, a market crash where the thing that you're building just becomes this like disgusting word, brands don't want to discuss it. And if you think about how big FTX was, they were like sponsoring stadiums, Formula One cars, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was a big hurdle for us. What about you, Kadeem?
I think one of the things that was like chaotic for me that I remember is when we did the tour in Asia. It was like the first night I was like stressing about, okay, is it gonna work? Like, we were rolling out our tech for the first time in real life.
And on a pretty big scale.
Yeah, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
Right. It was all fine. And then the second night I was chilled. The second event I was super chilled.
Had a few
I
drinks.
was chilling. Like, I was like, I'll get to the event later. You was ringing me. Like, my phone was ringing. You were like,
chill.
It's not working, bruv. You need to be here right now. I was like, what do you mean it's not working? Like, it worked the other night. Like, it should be fine. And just getting there and seeing like the chaotic.
I think this was in Singapore.
This was in Singapore.
This was like the final show, the grand finale.
And it was like, it's not working. Like, you need to figure it out. And I was like, okay, this is real now. And, got the laptop out. I think I was known as the guy throughout that whole thing.
He was basically like,
I was on my laptop
controlling the fort.
But got it working. But that was like, heart in mouth kind of like situation of like, this is mad. People like shouting, what is going on? Like, what, what's happening? Like,
There's hundreds of people stood outside the venue waiting to come in.
Yeah,
Are they on the guest list? Are they not on the guest list?
I mean, long story short, we got it working. It was fine. A little glitch, but that was kind of like that happens, right? That's a part of the startup kind of like vibe of like being in real life, stuff working, stuff not working, and learning from it. And I think that was a kind of like pivotal moment of us like realizing that we can do this, right?
Yeah.
Like even if it doesn't work, even if we have obstacles, we'll figure it
You
out.
figure it out along
Yeah,
the
we'll
way.
figure it out. So it's like I think that was like a very memorable moment. Yeah.
I think we'd done 3 shows until that point, and it was like all of them ran perfectly. But now we're at the final one.
I was chilling, but
Yeah.
it was like, it went wrong. But anyway, we live and we learn.
On to the next one.
Yeah, man. So you're not just buying something, you're participating in something bigger. What does that mean in the context of department?
I mean, think about your life right now. Ultimately, you go to work, you exchange your time for these tokens, and you use these tokens to buy things. And once you've purchased them, what do you really get out of them, right? If you think about this hoodie, for example, it keeps me warm, it might look cool. But beyond that, what do you get from the brand? And the whole premise of department is we want to redefine how brands and consumers interact and transact through technology. And ultimately, if you think about having a chip in your hoodie, which we have here, imagine if I bought this hoodie and then I used it to get into an event, I used it to go to a community event, I used it to unlock some gated content. A brand can see how frequently I'm participating with their story. And then they can understand whether I'm a participant actively or passively. And then they can decide how they want to reward you for that. And if you think about it, at the moment, brands spend an incredible amount of money convincing you to buy their products. And then afterwards, what do? They send you an email, they tag you on social media. What if they gave you something more through what you already purchased? I think that's the interesting point of technology, is it should give you more rather than take away. And I think technology's got to a stage where it takes more from you than it gives from you. And we want to kind of like level that playing field and make tech fun again.
Mm.
What do you say, Kadeem?
I think it's just about the experience, right? I think currently it's the same, right? Like everything's the same. Like you go on a website, you see something cool, you might see someone out, you see them wearing something, you go on the website, you buy it, that's it, right? I think it's just for us, it's like we're trying to give brands, artists the power to create something completely new, right? And I think we don't know what they're going to create, but that's the fun part. It's like we will kind of just want to be on the journey of like coming up with ideas, but also bouncing off their ideas of ways that they can use this technology in different ways. And I think the channels are pretty much set, right? You've got your social media, you've got your email, you've got your website, you've got in real life, but there's no intersection of connecting all of them. And that's what we try to create. And I think our tool is unique because it gives you diversity and it gives you the way of like getting direct feedback from someone actually using it, right? And I think that's the thing that's like really big, and I think it's going to be really big for when people actually start using it, of like seeing the power that it can bring them.
Yeah, I agree.
Essentially, you've just answered this question, but you could probably dive a little bit deeper and answer this question in a more direct way. So what existing system are you trying to reimagine or replace?
Yeah, I mean, to touch base on what Kadeem said, if you think about the way in which brands interact with you today, it's mostly online. And that's because the way in which we interface with the world has changed. We used to go to, venues to buy things. I used to go to the record shop and buy vinyl. I used to touch it. I used to talk to the guy selling it. He used to give me recommendations. And that whole experience really felt personal. After a while, many visits to the record shop, he started to know what I wanted, what my tastes were, which records I was into. And then he would start recommending things, and, you spend less time finding rubbish and having a bad experience and more time having a better experience because it was curated to you. And I think when we transitioned from the physical world into the digital world, it was exciting. It was something new. But over time, it became saturated because everyone just came and started doing the same thing, and you start having the same experiences. And I think that's how it feels when you're on social media today, or when you open an email. I mean, if you open an email, I've got like 20,000 unread emails, which are mostly just buy this, buy that, get this 10% discount off. And it's the same copy and paste tactics, which ultimately dilute the experience for consumers. And what do brands want to achieve? Brands want to ultimately build relationships with consumers, not just transact. And that's the problem that we have. Everything's so transactional. And I think if brands spent more time curating a more personalized experience and they actually treated you as someone they cared about, they tried to delight you, you would actually just want to deal with them more because it's more fun like that, right? If you think about something that's transactional, you go to the shop, you buy it, that's where it ends. But if, as I described with the hoodie, if you build the relationship with the brand because they're ultimately giving you more from what you get and incentivizing you to participate and asking more of you, but giving you more back, then that could be a better experience for everyone. You know, it feels a bit more meaningful than just a one-way channel of buy. Whereas this is more focused on what do you want to buy, what do you want to do, how do you want to participate, and then understanding how you'll participate and then how to serve you based on that. You know, I know this person bought this thing, I know they went to that event, and that's where we really bridge, if you will, between the physical and the digital, understanding that online and offline, because we are in a hybrid world now where ultimately people want more in real life, but they're still very much online. We talk to our friends online all the time. We buy everything online, but you still have that physical experience very much so. So how do we bridge those worlds?
Speaking of those worlds, your identity pulls from fashion, music, underground culture, and blends it all with tech. In times where we can see brands pulling out of culture, jumping on bandwagons just for the simple transactional value that you've just spoken about, how are you guys planning to keep it authentic?
I think if you think about authenticity, it's really just about owning who you are and what your story is, what your identity is. And I think people feel that when it's authentic. You can't really plan for authenticity. And I think when you look at the social media sphere today, what you have is people copy and paste tactics. So if we go into TikTok, all of the brands are pretty much using the same kind of tactics. But then you get the odd brand that just posts that raw BTS behind the scenes, shows it as it is, and you feel relatable to it. And I think that's where brands have really been successful. I mean, look at Gymshark. That's probably one of the earliest cases of those founders showcasing the build, posting it on social media, showing the story of what it takes to be a founder, what it takes to start up a company. And I think people relate to that. Normal people can create. Normal people can build things. And I think that's what people want to see more now. They want to see more of the behind the scenes than the polished version, the outcome. They want to come on the journey with you. And that's what our technology enables brands to allow their customers or communities to do, is come on the journey with them.
Yeah. I think also one of the things that big for me is that it gives the brands, the artists, the power. Like, I think that's a big thing for me. It's like you can now start designing and looking at the avenues of how you're going to interact with your customer or your fan or the people you want to engage. And it doesn't have to be in the traditional sense. It can be in the way that you want to create it, through your own channels, and you can actually control your own data, right? And I think that's a big part of it, is like not having to lean on the big brands to go and find out how much engagement you got. This is about the tap count, right? So like someone interacts with your product, cool. You know exactly when and where they interacted with it and how many times they interacting with it, how many times they're purchasing it. And then you can reward them directly from that information. And I think that's the kind of like big driver for me, that, you know, what keeps us like going is that we're going to give artists and brands that the ability to do that.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that a little bit more. I think, you know, we're talking about how tech can be used for good. And the idea with innovation is you're improving, right?
Yeah.
And I think we talk about all the bad things about social media, but great things have came out of the back of social media. Sure. I started to use social media to put on events. It was a new way to connect with people.
I met you through.
We met each other online, and we met so many people online, and we have great connections online. And I think ultimately, when you think about the great things about social media, there is a lot of great things that come out of social media. And it's not just social media, it's technology in general. And I think we want to use technology for good. And I think if you think about where tech has gone, it's ultimately become this gatekeepers, if you will. The tech companies have become the gatekeepers to your audiences. It's a pay and play operation. and you could amass a huge audience, a huge community by providing value. But if you really want to reach them, you have to pay, or you have to use the same copy and paste tactics that everyone else is doing. But it's like, how do you differentiate yourself from other brands or your competition by doing that? And I think, you know, by empowering the next generation of creators or brands to actually build deeper relationships through the technology in a meaningful way is interesting. And I think you're already starting to see that happen with social media. There's been like offshoots of, look at the running clubs, for example. Where does social media really exist today? It's like in these more private, you know, niche communities where you want to feel a bit more special by being part of it. You show up, you connect with people that are like-minded, you're involved in something that's not so broadly known, but it's more focused on a niche interest or a common interest, as opposed to just like mass exposure of this is social media and content. It's like, this is content for running, or this is content for music, and here's a group surrounding that. And I think Discord is another example.
And it's taking people from like digital to in real life, right? I think that's been the big thing, or the rise, obviously, since COVID. It's like everyone wants to get out. Like, as much as we're digital, like people yearn for that physical and that in real life, right? And I think we're trying to marry those two things together, of like giving you the access through the technology, of like tapping it and having a digital experience, but ultimately your experience is going to lie in the physical, right? So that's very much like to the core of like what we're trying to do. So yeah, I think that's like really important to what, like, you know, like what we want to build and what we want to give to other brands and artists and creatives.
Yeah, and to go back to the original question, it's like, why do we sit at the intersection of these three industries? It's really culture.
Yeah.
Culture is at the forefront of everything that we do. And if you look at where technical innovation or creative innovation comes, it comes from culture.
Yeah.
Being at the edge of culture.
And not just like culture for saying culture, it's like what we do.
Yeah,
like,
it's who we are.
Yeah, it's who we are. It's like, I think, you know, that word is rinsed and repeat, and it's like culture this, culture that, but it's like, it's just what you do. Like you know, before the term became popular, it was just like what you did on a Sunday, what you did with your family, what you did with your friends. Like, it's feeding into what you know, really. And I think that's what's like important to us.
I think that's a sick summary, Kadeem, because I think to summarize it, culture is innate. You either get it or you don't.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what you do in fashion or music. You identify, and it identifies you. Something I wear, I see someone in the street, they might compliment me on my outfit, and then we start talking like we did when we first met. He came to the show looking cool. I was like, this guy's a stylish, cool guy. Before we know it, we're talking about all the different music we're interested in. Then he's talking about tech companies that he's interested in, and you're just like-minded individuals, and you connect through, you know, one topic, but actually it's much broader than that. You're interested in so many different things, and whether it's architecture, design, fashion. And so how can we connect people interested in these subjects, creators in these disciplines and fields, through the technology?
Yeah, sick.
If you guys were going to put out a bird call, who is DEPARTMNT for? Like, who is the tribe you guys are calling in?
For me, it's the underdog, to be honest with you, because I feel like we're the underdog, and I think that's what technology should enable. And on Kadeem's point earlier about enabling creators and builders is, you know, we don't want to enable LVMH or someone like this to get more customers and make more money. They're already doing a pretty good job of that. We're looking for the next conglomerate like this, and using our tech to build that. And I think for me, that whole world is just a subculture. And I think when you look at subculture, it ultimately becomes pop culture, and that's when it really broadens its adoption. We want to kind of exist somewhere in the middle, you know, where we're at the forefront of the subculture. And I think, you know, we bring that to the masses. And I think that's where we want to exist, is you know, empowering the underdog and I guess the understated future brands that we think that we can help become the next big thing.
Yeah, it's giving those brands and those artists the edge, right?
Yeah.
I think when you, like, if you look at brands today, they, you know, they start off, they're like very innovative, and it's like, wow, like I really like that brand. But then a bigger brand comes and just copies their formula, right? And then they lose that that following, or that, what really brought them to the forefront, because all the other brands are doing the same thing, right? But I think what's important is that with our technology, if you use it in the right way, you really own that. There's the IP within using our technology, right?
It gives you that competitive
it
edge.
gives you that competitive edge so that you can create your own way of doing it through the technology, right? And I think we want to be able to give them that next level, like as soon as they come out the gate. And I think that's what's really powerful for me. It's like, I would love to see a brand that I follow that's like really small and they like blow up through using our technology. And it's not from a thing of like, oh, we want to like own what they're doing. It's like use it to kind of like
To
change the
empower them.
market, yeah, and empower them to be like, okay, keep going, like, and not having to need the need of, okay, I need to get bought out by a big
Yeah.
brand. I can just keep going because I own my own metrics. I'm like servicing my own community in the way that I need to, and they can just grow authentically. Like, I think that's what's powerful, and that's what really like drives what we're doing, because we're into this, like we've been following the like brands and like queuing up to like for trainer
We've
drops,
experienced
and
it.
we've experienced it. We understand like how real it is, and I think being able to be a part of it in this new wave and this new generation that we live in now, in a different way embedded with our technology, it's game changer, really.
Yeah, I think for me, you ask who's it for, and I mean, I think it's for people that we fuck with.
Yeah.
It's like brands that we're into.
Yeah.
People that we want to see elevate their customer experience or their brand experience. And I could give so many examples, but when we started developing this technology, you see brands doing things. I give you an example. Recently, Puma and Skepta just collaborated, and they did a hiking drop, if you will, or the whole theme of the collection's hiking. And they did a scavenger hunt around London where you had to find these metal relics, or I don't know, if you will, they're just a little thing that you had to find. And I thought, imagine if they were using our technology where you could tap it, and then that was almost like a data point where they could understand how many people are tapping here, how many people are doing that, how many people are actually looking at this thing. And I think that makes it a bit more interesting, because ultimately it keeps you involved in the story rather than just like doing one thing, watching social media. Is that person looking for that relic? Like, everyone can participate, everyone can be involved in this. And I think that can make it interesting for brands, that can make it engaging. And I think, we want to help people do that.
And I think what's important as well is that every time we think about a new feature or something that we want to develop, it's always based on an example of what if for this brand.
Yeah, we're always thinking about the people that we interact with.
We're always developing something based on if we were to work with this brand. Like, that's the core of what we do. It's like, can you imagine if we went to like Boiler Room and it was like, you could do this? Yeah. And I think that's the essence of like what we're trying to build, is that we're trying to build things that we would want to use, and also that we're actually connected to.
I think from what I'm hearing, departments for visionaries.
Yeah, and for the outliers, people like us. And I think, like Kadeem said, I think, I'm a marketing guy, so everything that I experience and everything that I interact with, I'm always thinking about how could I improve this? How could I make it better? And I think that's really everything that powers department internally, is just thinking about how we can make our own experiences online, offline, better. So that's what drives everything, I think.
Yeah, sure.
So if we're going to break it down and get a bit more granular, Kadeem, what is TapTech and what makes it more than just a chip?
So TapTech, if you think of it from stuff that you use every day, it's basically NFC chip, right? So it's like the same technology that you use for when you go to the shop and you tap to pay for your chocolate bar, buy a coffee, and go on the underground and wherever you are in the world to kind of like pay for something. And we're basically taking this technology and using it in a way to enhance experiences. So we're taking this technology and embedding it into products, essentially. So it could be products that you wear, products that you interact with, any kind of products essentially. And we're basically taking this chip and connecting it to a digital experience. So it could be a URL to a website, it could be a progressive web app, it could be an application that you have to download, it could be anything really, right? Anything digital. It's basically a gateway. So you tap it with your phone, and every phone in the last 10, 15 years has an NFC reader on it. And it basically unlocks an experience that you as a brand or an artist or a creator can design. And what we're trying to do is not narrow this gateway that it opens. Like, we're not trying to say that the gateway needs to be like this, but we're trying to have it as broad as possible so that
It's for anyone.
yeah, artists, brands, whoever can dictate how it's experienced by their end customer or their end users.
Yeah, I was going to say, beyond the technology, to think about it's more like a touch point.
Yeah.
You think about the way that we interface with the world. You used to touch things, and now you click on links, and this is a hybrid. Is you tap it physically and it takes you somewhere digitally, and you can experience that both online, but you also experience it offline in the physical world right there in that moment. And I think yeah, I mean, everyone's familiar with near field communication technology. They just don't really understand that that's what they're using. It's in their Oyster card, it's in their credit card, and they're using it day in and day out. And this is mostly for transacting on payments. But what we're saying is, imagine you could use it in a more interesting way where you're participating and a brand can see what you're participating in, whether it's at an event, you touched an access point at a pop-up, or your wristband scanned at the bar. You can then start, as I said earlier, to understand what that person's doing, where they're doing it, who they're doing it with, why they're doing it, and then you can then curate the experience around that. I think that's the cool thing about tap tech and what it enables. It's basically just a touch point in the customer experience.
Yeah, and I think it just, what it can unlock is
the possibilities are endless.
And it's the thing about and I'm sure when we go into it, it's like, compared to QR codes, like QR codes are ugly. Like, like you can't embed like a QR code in clothing, because I wouldn't wear any clothing that
people do, but they don't look that great.
Yeah. So, and this is something that we can design how you interact with. So we have different form factors that you can embed in different ways, and it's dynamic, right? You can change it just like that, right? With QR codes, you can get dynamically changed QR codes, but most QR codes are fixed, right? Like you scan it once and it's the same purpose every time. But we have different features, like we can have a URL that's like limited for a certain period of time. We can limit it to a geolocation. There's lots of different possibilities that we can do. We can change the link. We can redirect it somewhere else. We can we can have it in a way that we attach algorithms to it, so it's based on a certain amount of taps that you unlock different features, just to kind of like,
the more you participate,
the more you participate. So there's endless possibilities of things that we can do, and we're just excited to work with brands to unlock those possibilities.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worth mentioning, tap unlock experience is one of our taglines. And what does that even mean? If you think about a QR code, and we were kind of all forced to use them during the pandemic, it's like you have to get your phone out, you have to scan it. It's a bit of an annoying thing to do. With NFC, you just tap your phone,
and we're so used to that,
and you hit the link, and that's it, you're in.
We are so used to doing that. But when it comes to doing it with a product or something that you wear,
it's unfamiliar.
People get immediately confused, which is so interesting to me, because someone says, "Oh, yeah, pay here," everyone knows what to do.
Yeah, just get your card out, get your phone out, tap.
And I think that's our biggest challenge. But we're up for it. I've been like, we're basically taking it from just like a payment point, but now it's like an experience and how you have your fun, right? Like, and how you unlock things. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Experience.
Yeah.
So you're not just shipping tags, you're building an ecosystem. Where does the CNX come into this plan?
So I think the CNX is something you should think about as the interface to TapTech. So it's not an application, it's a progressive web app, so anyone can use it. It's browser access. So as soon as you tap, as Kadeem mentioned earlier, you may tap and it may ultimately send you to a URL, but that whole experience could also be within our CNX interface. And that ultimately is, a whole range of our features are powered by the application, for lack of a better term. So we have digital product passports. There's one feature. We have another feature called tap to reorder. And the idea is this will enable brands to have a modular, scalable, off-the-shelf solution where they don't need to have any developers, and it's ultimately a no-code tool where they can just plug and play, ultimately take our TapTech product, integrate it into their products or spaces, and just use it straight out of the box. And then for consumers, it's really to create ultimately a much more user-friendly experience. Thinking about the user experience with most brands, it's different wherever you go. And what we want to really focus on is how we build the most seamless, frictionless user experiences. I think with blockchain at the moment, it's not really the case. You need to be a bit of a tech wizard, or traditionally you've had to be a bit of a tech wizard to engage with the blockchain. And we ultimately want to just make it super simple. So having things like account abstraction, so you basically don't need to create a wallet. We create a wallet for you, and you just get the benefits when you claim it. And things like this is ultimately why we created the CNX. It was to empower brands ultimately straight out of the box to create these experiences, but also on the consumer side to have the most seamless, best experiences.
Yeah, and like all the stuff that we've spoken about, unlocking the experiences for brands and artists. We don't want to make it difficult, right? So that's why we created CNX. It's like a modular platform like we spoke about before, like Wix or Squarespace, that you just come in and you move modules around to fit your brand's aesthetic. And essentially, as soon as you've created this experience of like unlocking some digital platform, you tap it and it unlocks it straight away and within our own ecosystem, without having to have developers and all these different things, because we don't want to become gatekeepers ourselves, right? Of basically saying, okay, great, use our technology, but now you need a web developer, now you need this, now you need
empower people.
We want to empower people. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to use this technology. And that's essentially what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think then on the consumer side, if you think about it, is we want to give that value up front. Whilst we want to get you to participate, there has to be a reason why you want to participate. And if you have to scan something, put your email in, download an application, the experience already sucks. I'm already uninterested and I'm going to go somewhere else and look for the next thing. So if you can give that value up front and they can have a great experience with something like the CNX or just directly through the TapTech itself and a URL, and it's seamless and it's frictionless and it's just quick, then you can then later ask for more when you're building that relationship because you gave that value up front. And if you think about that, like how marketing people do it today, like Gary Vaynerchuk as an example, he gives you great content up front, gives you value first, and then you want to lock into his newsletter or go to his event. And that's because you see the value that's offered up front. And I think that's the cool thing about TapTech ultimately combined with the CNX is you can just use it straight out of the box, either brand or consumer.
Yeah. That's the key value, right? Out the box, basically.
Out the box, straight up value.
How do you balance making it feel magical while keeping it simple for first-time users?
I think that's exactly what I said just in the last statement, how do you make it magical? But you have to make it magical from the get-go, right? Give that value up front. You can't be asking for, give me your email so that I can sell you something. That's not magical. That sucks, It's like you don't want to build a relationship with me. You just want my money. So I think for us, it's really about wowing them with the technology and the experience. And I think that it is pretty cool if you bought a hoodie, for example, and you just expected it just to be a hoodie. And then later you get a notification saying, hey, that hoodie is now inviting you to an event. And then when you get to the event, it's like, this gets you free drinks. And that's because you bought the hoodie. You get more out of it. And that is a magical experience. And to give an example of it, it's, I was watching one of these videos the other day. Someone bought a ridiculously expensive Ferrari. They purchased the Ferrari. They managed to get this email once they purchase it saying, congratulations on the purchase of your Ferrari. We've now added this to your digital garage. And within there was this whole web page or application where you could service it, you could add photos, you could do so many different things. And it was like this personalized, unique experience for you, for the thing that you'd purchased. We can make that same experience, but in a t-shirt, in a ticket. And it's like, why should that be exclusive to luxury brands? Why should that be exclusive for expensive products? You're spending your money to acquire these things. There should be some element of enjoyment beyond its like basic utility. If you think about going to the coffee shop today, why do you pay $8 for a coffee? It's not because the coffee tastes great. It's because of the whole experience that you have throughout the whole customer journey. You want to be seen going into that particular coffee shop because it identifies you. It's who you are, your lifestyle. You might meet like-minded individuals there. Maybe you'll post it on your Instagram and say, look, this is me. And I think that whole perceived value beyond the physical product, which sometimes is intangible, it's just through branding, it's through messaging, it's through experiences. And we ultimately want to create that holistic online, offline experience that does feel magical, irrespective of whether it's, you buying something or engaging with the brand. It should always feel good.
Yeah. And luxury is relative, right? It's relative to your means, right? But it should always give you something more, right? And I think that's what we're trying to do. Where within, if it's a hoodie that you spent like $150 for, but you've had to save up that $150, that's relative to you. But we're now trying to basically unlock a new layer of experience for you, and you'll now appreciate that hoodie even more, right? Because it's like of what you're unlocking. And I think that's what we're basically trying to offer to brands and to artists and to creatives, of like really giving their customers that joy again, right? That joy of like, when you receive something, it was like, this is it, like, and this is something that keeps giving, right? This is something that continuously keeps giving. And I think
like some of the records I've bought.
And that's what we want to recreate.
Can you give us a use case where department tech just worked? Something that just clicked?
I think for me, it really feels like the whole personalized experience is the most powerful thing. Having something for you, having content for you. And that's what our technology enables. Is if you think about it, the moment you create an advert or you create a piece of content and it's just you're blasting it out into the world and it's for everyone. And our product is for everyone, but the cool thing about it is it's also for you. And having that personalized experience through gated content or having something more unique, like for example, I purchased this thing and I'm using it all the time and I'm engaged with it, so now I'm getting more out of it. It feels like you're getting something for you. You're putting effort into it. And I think that you see that a lot in brands at the moment, right? Is you got brands that are creating these communities like Cortez or Represent, and they have like a cult following, and there's like a subsection of their audience which ultimately is super loyal, super into it. And I think how do you empower those people? How do you make those people feel seen and heard? And I think that's what the tech enables, is you can ultimately see what those people are doing and then personalize the experience to them. And that is something I think that's magical.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always kind of like not an artist, but into art, right? And I've always when designing the stuff that like some of the features and some of the stuff we're developing, always thought of from an artist point of view of, okay, cool, when I go to a gallery and I see a piece of art, my perception of that art is my perception, right? It's subject to me or any other person that sees that piece of art, and then I could read the description on the wall of like, what this artist thought of and stuff like that, right? But one of the things that I've always thought interesting in is using our technology, you can unlock a layer of experience of the artist actually telling you why they created that art, or they can have a layer of showing the person that's interacting with the art behind the scenes of them creating it. And I think that's the biggest thing that clicks for me is creating that next layer for the consumer or the person that's interacting with it, of that you can't just get from seeing it. It's that deeper connection from, okay, I've tapped that piece of art and now I'm seeing, you know, the artist mixing the colors and him listening to music and the playlist that he was listening to when he created that art. That layer connects you more to the artist, right?
It's more enriched.
It's more enriched, but and it's also the other side of it as well is that I might not be able to ever afford to pay to buy that piece of art, right? But I can go and interact with that art, and now I can understand the concept of how it was created, and I can start understanding, you know, what was listened to. I can feel more connected to the artist without actually paying for it. And then you actually, as an artist, you build your following now, and you can dictate more. So it's benefiting the artist and also the followers and the people that are engaged with the artist. So it's like, it's interesting.
Yeah, creating more enriched and in-depth storytelling. I think another thing that is also quite apparent, which is inevitably going to happen, is just the tokenization of real world assets. This is something that is inevitably going to happen through legislation. We're already seeing it with digital product passports, that garments are going to be attached to these digital twins so that you can understand the story behind them, where they came from in the supply chain, who made them. And this is something which is evidently a good fit for department. Digital product passports at the moment, how would you even interface with them? You're going to buy a product and then go and like look up a URL or something? Unlikely. But if it was like embedded in the product, you can interface with it, and that's pretty cool. But what does it mean beyond the digital product passport? I think, you know, it's like you get the understanding of, hey, this person made it, this factory made it, these textiles were used. But it's like, how can you even deeper enrich that whole experience, like you were saying?
Yeah, and those things are important because, you know, like we want to be sustainable. We want to see where things were made and like the CO2 that's attributed to that product and all that stuff. But what we want to do is take it to the next level of, okay, once that person gets that product, their experience with that product is like being enriched, right? And they're unlocking new things and they're valuing that product. And I think that's a big part of sustainability as well, is that if I value this product and this product keeps giving, then I'm going to keep this product and I'm not going to go buy another hoodie.
Use it again and again.
Yeah, I'm going to use it again and again, right? And that's another part of sustainability, really, is that, you know, we need to give more to the products that we have, right? You can't just think, okay, cool, like all these ads about whatever we're going to do for the world and all this kind of stuff, like, but the real thing is that the value for the person, right? You need to make the product good enough, and the product needs to keep giving for someone to keep using it, right? And I think that's what we're trying to unlock as well.
I think we live in this throwaway culture, whether it's like content or products. It's just like everything's just short attention spans, over diluted, mass produced, and it's just like, whether it's fashion or music, it's like these vinyls that I talk about that I used to buy and dig for, I've listened to them again and again and again and again. It's like, you think about, maybe there's a few tracks on Spotify and you see in the Wrapped at the end of the year that you listen to that like way more than you should have. But ultimately, there's just so much of this content, so much of this music, so many products that you're always diverting your attention, and brands are always asking you to divert their attention. It's like, here, buy my product, here, buy my products. And it's like, why would you be loyal if this hat and this hat are pretty much the same thing? And ultimately, you just got a hat, but if the hat could do more and get you into an event or make you feel part of a community, then you're going to wear that hat a lot more than just a one-time thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
Sick. If someone's using a department tag or uniform today, what happens behind the scenes?
This one for you, buddy. Tech guy over here.
What, as in, so I think to couple it, so we've got the CNX that we've discussed before, and we've got another kind of platform that we're building is it's called Core. Essentially, what this allows is for the brand of the artist to purchase these NFC tags, right? And once you purchase them, then you can embed them into different things. You can stick them on different things, and we have various different form factors that you can purchase. But then you need to be able to control them, what they're going to do, and that's what we're building. It's almost like a CRM system where basically you're able to see each tag in its raw data, but you can also attach people to them. So if John down the road buys a hoodie from you, you can say, okay, John has this NFC tag, and then you can see how many times John's interacted with it. So I think, yeah, we're building an ecosystem that has like essentially a front end, which is for the consumers that they can interact with, and a back end that's like how you control it, how you manage it, how you see the analytics for it. And those two systems work together to kind of like to be our ecosystem of department.
Yeah, I mean, in summary, there's a lot fucking going on behind the scenes. And I think to summarize it, we have three main fundamental components of our ecosystem.
Yeah.
TapTech, which is what you interface with, these NFC tags. And then we have the CNX application, for lack of a better word, that you use to interact with it. And then there's the core SaaS product, which brands use to manage and power those experiences. And as we were saying earlier, it's very much about building tools which people can just use straight out of the box, whether it's a consumer or a brand. We wanted to make it just as easy on the SaaS product for a brand to buy tags, manage the experiences, understand how their customers are using them, just as easy on the consumer side where they don't need to download an app, they don't need passwords, and it's just seamless and not frustrating.
Yeah.
We just want to make it easy for everyone. And I think that's how you drive adoption for this technology. And that's how you're going to drive adoption in blockchain, is by basically enabling people to use it in a way that's meaningful and valuable without even using it.
Yeah. And I think, especially on the NFC side, it's like if you wanted to use NFCs and you was just a person that thought, okay, cool, I'm going to buy a couple of NFC tags off whatever website and integrate and program them, you're going to spend hours. You're going to spend hours trying to figure out how to do it the best way and how you're going to be able to update them in the field and all that kind of stuff. And basically, we're trying to make that experience as seamless as possible, and to make it as user-friendly as possible. And it's the same, like you said, with the blockchain side. It's like, we don't want you to have to even use the word. We just want the effects of and the upside of using the blockchain, the benefits to be there in our ecosystem without you having to really learn about it or understand it in a deep way. Let us deal with that side. And that's what we're trying to build essentially.
Yeah, you gave a great analogy earlier, which you said, is like Shopify. If you think about websites when they first came into the market, you needed a whole team of people to develop a website. Whereas today, a brand or creator can just create a website in a few minutes on Shopify because it's just a plug and play solution. And I think that's what we're trying to do with, NFT, NFC, and integrate all of these technologies into, I guess, overall experience.
Yeah.
Where you're utilizing the Internet of Things, you're using this near field communication, you're backing it on the blockchain, and all these nice acronyms and terms which no one really fucking understands or really wants to understand. All they want to understand is, what do I get out of it?
Yeah.
And for us, we just want to make that really easy, both, on the consumer and business side, is you can just use our products, get value out of them, and they're just fun.
Sick.
We're going to cut here quickly.
Yeah, let's pause.
I think we killed that shit.
I think I'm chatting shit because I'm burst on the wine. I love this guy's confidence, my guy. Wait, we're starting a podcast.
We're jumping back in a second. We're jumping back in a minute, yeah?
You're going to be listening to your podcast. I'll be looking at the data like, Kadeem, we've got one listener.